this in a complete way and also leave time for discussion, because I think this topic is an important one for our community to discuss. I think sometimes this and related terms are often avoided or ignored. So this is going to be my pitch of why this is an essential piece of humanism. So the title of my talk, let's see. My name is Brian Vandenberg. I know who I am, so I guess my name is Brian Vandenberg, and the topic of my talk is Humanism and the Sacred. So as I mentioned, I'm recording this, so if you want to curse me out, I will know who you are, but probably not where you live. So, okay. So, Humanism and the Sacred. Let me give you a brief overview of where I'm going, and it's pretty clear, and it follows the title of the talk. The first part is, what is humanism? This may not be obvious, so I'll talk about the definition, and then talk about the humanist water that we swim in, which will become, I think, more clear when I get there. What is the sacred? A definition, and here's an important distinction that is really critical to what I'm going to be saying. And that's the distinction between the experience of the sacred and the attribution of its source. Then talk about a humanist sacred, contrast this with a religious sacred, and then offer a few conclusions, and then hopefully have a lot of time for discussion. So please hold your questions and comments until then, and I welcome them when that time comes. So what is humanism? This is a puzzle for many of us. And part of the reason why it's a puzzle is that it's not a common term or concept. We know what Christianity is, we know what the various other religions are. Humanism is kind of this maybe philosophical idea that a few people have, and what is it really? So there is a general lack of clarity about the term because it seems obscure, and also for us as a community trying to distinguish ourselves from other communities that are common and popular religions, it becomes then a challenge. So there's some confusion about it, understandably so, and I want to underscore that humanism is not a fringe belief by contemporary secular humanists. It has a long history that originates with the Greeks, followed also with Romans, and it disappears largely in the West because of the dominance of Christianity until the Renaissance, where it remakes its appearance and is then formulated and reformulated in different ways as the historical and cultural context in the West has changed, bringing us into the 20th century set of definitions that are offered by the AEU, the American Humanist Association, and so on. So long history. This is not a fringe belief. And we are living in a humanist world. We are like fish in water that don't know we're in water. And I think the obscurity of the term makes us think, oh, well, this is really esoteric, what's this about? But the fact of the matter is, our lives are lived in a humanist world, and we're largely unaware of it. So what I want to do, this next section when I talk about humanism, is first a very quick definition of it, and secondly, followed by efforts to illuminate the humanist water that we swim in that is largely invisible. And I'm going to do this by contrasting medieval life with modern life, and in so doing, I think, hopefully, make visible this humanist water that is our world. So, humans are the measure of all things. I've paraphrased Pythagoras, 5th century BCE, who said man is the measure of all things. I've updated this to the 20th and 21st century. Humans are the measure of all things. So what does this mean? It means truth and what is real are determined by human perception, judgment, reason, and experience. And this picture is a drawing by Leonardo da Vinci in the 15th century. This is almost 2,000 years later. Again, the appearance in the Renaissance of humanism, and Da Vinci was the quintessential expression of the appearance of humanism re-emerging in the Renaissance. So now I'm going to take you through various aspects of our contemporary life that are essential to what we think and what we do, how we experience the world. And I want to contrast this, the medieval world, which was dominated by Christianity and the church, to the modern world that we swim in. And these two pictures capture it. So the top picture is a medieval village with the church at the top of the hill, the highest structure, and the town fans out below it. It is very clear that Christianity and the church are the axis of life. And I will say, if you want to understand the history of a place like St. Louis cities or a culture, the architecture will tell you. And here we see the modern world, the second picture. This is a picture of Trinity Church, which is located in New York City in Wall Street. It was at one time the largest structure in the United States. You see what's happened? It's in the shadow of these behemoth monuments to money, trade, and commerce. This is the shift that I'm going to be talking about in all areas of our life. So how do we know the world? In the medieval world, the world was influenced and controlled by supernatural forces. And how did we know about these supernatural forces? Through biblical authority. The sacred text informed us about the supernatural forces that were at work in the world. How do we know the world in the modern world? The modern world is a world of forces of nature. Here you see the four forces of nature depicted here. And how do we know about the forces of nature? Through investigation and reason. How do we experience ourselves? This may seem like obvious. Hasn't it always been the way that we experience ourselves now? The answer is absolutely not. In a medieval world, our inner experience was penetrated and dominated by supernatural beings that could invade our thoughts, that could take over our thoughts, that could become a part of us and we feel out of control. We could be beset by demons, fiends, and spirits of hell and damnation, and also the voice and presence of God. Our inner experience was an inner experience that was populated with the drama of salvation and hell and damnation by supernatural beings. And how did we deal with these challenges and difficulties of being tormented by these supernatural beings? Through clergy. And clergy ministered to the trials and travails of the soul. The modern world. The modern world is a world of the self. There are not supernatural beings and entities that have invaded our self. This inner experience is a modern experience. This is very new and, frankly, located in the West. So it's a new experience of the way in which we experience ourselves. Excuse me. And we are beset by concerns about the self. I'm anxious. I'm depressed. I'm unworthy. I'm not myself today. So how are these difficulties and challenges of ourselves dealt with? They are dealt with doctors of the mind, scientists of the mind. These are psychologists and psychiatrists who have been trained in the research related to well-being and problems with the self. And the operative word here that gives signals what's involved is the word treatment. Treatment is a medical term. We are treated for the maladies of the self by scientists of the mind. Authority to govern our community. In the medieval world, authority, and here we have a picture of the Pope crowning the king, and thereby conferring divine authority to the king's rule. Monarchy was a divinely given authority. Contrast this with, in bold letters, we the people. This is a revolution. This is the Declaration of Independence. It is a missile aimed at monarchy. It is a shift in who has the authority to govern our community. We the people. The basis of our livelihood and communal exchange. In the medieval world, money is the root of all evil. Money is one of the 7 deadly sins. Usury, which is the lending of money for interest, was a sin. Contrast that to the modern world, where money is the root of well-being. And the prime interest rate is one of the most important numbers, not only in our culture, but worldwide, because even modest fluctuations in this number can cause huge dislocations in livelihoods and exchange and well-being. So, the arts. Oftentimes the arts are understood or viewed as after-school activities, kind of non-productive, frivolous involvements, forms of entertainment. This is absolutely wrong. If you want to understand a culture and their values, norms, traditions, and beliefs, you look at their arts. And so what I'm going to do is go through several art forms from medieval to modern to kind of underscore this transition in cultural values, norms, traditions, and beliefs. So I start with the visual arts. The Madonna and Child, Jesus and his Virgin Mother, are ubiquitous icon pictures in medieval times that are part of the Christian theology about the sacredness of Jesus and the Virgin Mother. Contrast this, thank you, with Rembrandt. Rembrandt takes a picture of himself. The focus of the picture is himself, and it's a deeply personal, psychological reflection of the state of his self. And then contrast this to 20th century Andy Warhol soup can, the garish world of advertising and marketing that vie for our attention, that are ubiquitous and inescapable in our contemporary life. In the theater, Christian morality plays, where the virtues of good Christian life and the wages of sin are played out in plays to remind people of the importance of living according to Christian biblical teaching. Contrast this to Shakespeare with his deep psychological portraits and insights, filled with soliloquies. To be or not to be, that is the question. It's an internal question to himself about how shall I live. Profound psychological questions and issues. But then contrast this to 20th century hair. This is long, beautiful, luxurious hair. Right? The eroticism and sexuality of the body, of the hair, of being. In music, Gregorian chants, where a small group of not ministers, monks, thank you, chanting in unison, no polyphonic individuality allowed here, chanting in unison to God's glory. Contrast this to Beethoven in the 19th century. Ode to Joy, his final symphony, personal experience of joy as the pinnacle of being alive. Then contrast this to 20th century Chuck Berry's Mind Ding-a-Ling. I can't think of a better contrast than the Gregorian chants to Mind Ding-a-Ling. Okay, so what I'm saying here is the modern world is a humanist world. Humans are the measure of all things. And this means this world causes of nature. This world explanations about nature derive from examination and reason. We, the people, authority. And this world values, norms, traditions, and beliefs. No supernatural, no divine. This world is the humanist world. So, what is sacred? Sacred is that which is set apart. The mundane, profane world set apart from something entitled to respect and reverence. And this set apart, this two ways of experiencing the world, the two, the sacred and mundane, involve two experiences of being in the world. In the mundane experience, this is the normal, commonplace, familiar everydayness that we motor around the world in. And contrast this with the sacred, which is marked by awe, reverence, astonishment, fear, and humility. And this is an important point that I mentioned in the beginning. I want to distinguish between the experience of the sacred and the attribution of its source. Okay? So, there are several quotes that comprise my sacred humanist text. And I'm going to use several of them now to lead me, and hopefully us, to the sacred, humanist sacred. First of all, as we mentioned, what is humanism? It's this world. So we're going to be talking about the sacred in this world. Why is there something rather than nothing? This is a quote from Leibniz, and later Heidegger echoes this. It's not insignificant that Leibniz was an Enlightenment philosopher. And the Enlightenment was a time when religion was no longer the answer, it was the question. And so this question, why is there something rather than nothing, is a profound religious question. And the religious answer is God or supernatural powers. Now, this does not answer the question, right? It pushes it one level back. So we ask the question now, why is there God rather than nothing? So the question is not answered, really, with the religious answer. So how do the humanist answer, there is no answer. It just is. Another quote, "It is not how the world is, but that it is the mystery." This by Wittgenstein, who is an important 20th century philosopher. This was in a book where he was trying to establish the foundations for that would allow for logically leading to truth. And one of his statements, this statement, identifies the limits of his efforts. That the world is a mystery, and it's huge. And it's not insignificant that he abandoned this philosophical approach after this book. It took a radical turn. So, it's not how the world, but that it is the mystery. What does this mean? The isness is beyond our understanding. Going back to the first quote also, why is there something rather than nothing? It just is, and it's a mystery. And the realization we are thrown into this uncanny, unfathomable mystery of which we are a part. The third quote, "The world is not as strange as we imagine, it's stranger than we can imagine." This is by J.D.S. Haldane, who is one of the great 20th century biologists. Again, this is not insignificant. Here's somebody who made enormous contributions to our understanding of biology. And what's his conclusion? Things are so strange, we can't even imagine how strange this is. This is from somebody who has provided such understanding. Again, for me, this is a sacred humanist quote from my sacred text. So the humanist sacred is the experience of awe, reverence, fear, humility, astonishment in the presence of this world mystery. The isness is a mystery. We are part of that mystery. So, many of us, most of us, probably have experienced this experience of the sacred in extraordinary events. We have our mundane life, and then in places that take us out of our mundane life, we are exposed and experience the sacred. Here I have a picture of somebody just in the midst of the Milky Way. Overwhelming. The majesty of mountains, the ocean. There's many of these that many of us have experienced that are extraordinary experiences outside of our normal experience that intimate us to the sacred and also intimate us to our insignificance. We lose ourself, lose our sense of self. We are absorbed in this larger, cosmic, infinite universe. But it is also possible to experience the sacred in the ordinary. So I want to give you an example of how this is possible. An example from my own experience that hopefully will provide the example that will illuminate and lead us to an understanding of the ways in which we can experience the sacred in the ordinary. So Sharon and I were staying at a place, a house, for the summer at a place that we had never been to before. We are occasional bird watchers, and I thought I spied this exotic, beautiful bird in the backyard. I grabbed my binoculars, I went out, and this is what I spied through the binoculars. This bird from the back, I'm going to read this, so from the back, it's shaded from indigo blue at its head through azure and finally ending in almost aquamarine at the tip. The wings and tail feathers were ridged with black stripes, etched with contrasting splashes of white. The white chest and neck led to a face adorned with black stripes through the eyes that connected with a ring around the back and the crown at the top of the head. And on top of the head was a crest. I said to Sharon, "Oh my, how quick you've got to see this." She did. And the laughter is really indicating the shift, right? I saw this bird naked, this incredible creature, without the word blue jay. As soon as you add the word blue jay, it's commonplace. Right? So I experienced the epiphany of the ordinary by stepping outside the meanings that we use to control the world. So, the humanist partitioning of the sacred and the mundane. We blanket the world with meanings to tame the world. Blue jay is one example. We do this with everything, not just words, but the ways in which we perceive things. We motor through the world because it is mundane, it's everyday, we don't even think about it, we don't look at it. So it is this thin veneer of meaning that is the mundane. And the sacred is what throbs beneath. The miraculous, mysterious mystery that lies just beneath this veneer of meaning that allows us to manage this unbelievable experience of being in this world mystery. And we access it. We access the sacred by a shift in how we experience the world. We can't reason our way to this. This is not a logical deduction. It's also not the difference between intellect and emotion, or head and heart. It is rather stepping aside, stepping outside, askance to the meanings of the everydayness that gives us then a peek at the miraculous that throbs beneath the veneer of everydayness that is part of it, and that allows us to manage our life. This also challenges us to stand in the face of the mystery without explanation. I don't know is the answer. And this takes courage. It takes courage because of our cosmic insignificance. There are no absolutes in life. And for many, this is reason to flee. This is a very deeply unsettling situation where there are no absolutes. And we have to stand in the face of the mystery that is our life, that is this world, and say, I don't know. And oftentimes accompanying this, and I'll speak for myself, what's the meaning of my life in the vast and insignificant cosmos? With no absolutes, isn't everything relative and pointless? How do I make my way in this world? This, for me, was a big personal challenge. And I think it's a challenge for being a humanist, standing in the mystery and saying, I don't know. It's also understandable why people would flee into some form that gives certainty to life. Also, what this evokes is the astonishment of being here now alive. Our lives are bracketed by an eternal darkness that preceded us at our birth, and an infinite darkness that awaits when we die. And we find ourselves in this cosmic eye blink of a moment, inserted into the bright lights of this world. And it is astonishing. And the sense of reverence and just, oh my God, sorry. I knew I was going to do that. I tried mightily. Oh my. I'm alive. Okay. And it also helps us situate our everyday concerns within a cosmic context. To see the world in a grain of sand, to see heaven in a wild flower, to hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour. This is the epiphany of the ordinary. So let's contrast this to the religious sacred. This is a sacred of the supernatural world, and the set apart for the supernatural religions is this world is mundane, and the supernatural realm is the sacred. Supernatural realm is outside of our this world mundaneness. So there have been tens of thousands of religions, most of them we don't know about prior to contemporary history, written history. Tens of thousands of religions, tens of thousands of attributions about the nature of the supernatural. And with this, tens of thousands of ways in which the supernatural has been made manifest in this world. In tens of thousands of sacred, just think of Stonehenge, the Ganges. I looked at some of this, you wouldn't believe the number and places that have been considered sacred. This is just the ones we know about. Same with rituals, icons. Here you see the mask of the sacred. And what these do is localize, manage, and control the mystery that is this world. By positing a supernatural and then localizing it, think about the word blue jay. This provides meanings for localizing and managing it, and provides well-worn paths, guides, signposts, and practices that confer the illusion of certainty in our existential plane. And this is done by collective beliefs. Collective beliefs create this sense of certainty, right? We all believe in this ritual. We all believe this. It's got to be true because we've got a leader here who's been designated as the agent of the sacred, supernatural. And so this sense of certainty relieves the existential crisis and burden of the angst and anxiety of finding ourselves in a world for which our answer is, I don't know. So what great relief is offered by a sense of certainty in a circle of folks that share a belief about how to manage this world mystery that gives the illusion of certainty. One of the problems and issues is if my attributions of certainty don't agree with your attributions of certainty, what do we have? Conflict. Millions of people have died over whether the Eucharist is the body of Christ or just a piece of bread. This is the absolute white-knuckled importance of certainty in a frightful humanist world, potentially, where there are no answers. And also, all of these share a common experience of the sacred, of awe, reverence, fear, humility, and astonishment. So, conclusions. The sacred is a human experience. The sacred is a fundamental human experience. It is not owned by religions of the supernatural. It is the experience of us being in this world mystery. There are other experiences and terms related to these experiences that also are similar to the sacred, in that they refer to fundamental human experiences. I've used some of them throughout this talk, in part to kind of introduce them and maybe make you a little nervous, because we do get nervous about these words, and that's what I'm going to come to that. So another word is epiphany. Epiphany is a Greek word. It means a sudden, striking realization. Epiphany was appropriated by the Christians to explain or describe a sacred experience in their theology. Epiphany is not owned by Christianity. It's a fundamental human experience of a sudden, striking realization. Same true for miracle. Miracle is a Latin word that means an object of wonder and to be astonished. This is not a religious term only. It's associated, but it is a fundamental human experience. Mystery, meaning difficult or impossible to explain. We live in this world mystery. It is part of what it means to be human. And spirit. Spirit meaning breath, a life force. It is the root of the term inspire and also expire. And James Croft gave a platform on the soul, where he made a similar argument that the soul can be understood in a humanist context. Religion does not own these experiences. And so, I think it's important for us to reclaim these words and these experiences. I think it's important for us to reposition these within a humanist framework. And I think it's also important for us to embrace this. I know many of us, and I will include myself in here, feel a little bit nervous about these terms because we ourselves have been at one point in the grip of the white-knuckle need for certainty by religions of the supernatural. And I say, I'll clean up my language because this is a public. Not so, we are taking it. It belongs to us. And we take with it also the meanings that are associated with this, the meanings of the experience. And I think it's important for us as a community to talk about these things, because we are a religious community. I feel that very strongly. I think part of that is the religion of this world mystery and embrace these ideas as well as others. So, the conclusion, shared experience. Repeating, many of us have experienced, the experience of the sacred epiphany, miracle, mystery, spirit, and others. Spring from the shared human experience of this world mystery. And part B, which is maybe a little more controversial, is humanists are not necessarily at war with the religions of the supernatural. We share experiences, we share values, we just have different attributions. The different attributions can be a sticking point, and it can be difficult because trust and respect is required. And trust and respect by both sides. So I'm going to give you an example of this. My sister Linda is a very devout, born-again Christian. She wanted to be a nurse, was trained as a nurse because she wanted to be with people when they died. She felt it was important that people not die alone. She did this not to proselytize when they die, but simply to be there. This was part of what she saw as her Christian duty. And that one little example is magnified in her life. She does many things, I don't know most of them, just amazing acts of Christian charity and giving of herself. She's a remarkable person. And also, choking up here, she's also, from high school and college, was interested in science. And for many years subscribed to the Scientific American. She's not scientifically not illiterate about science, and she's not stupid. Her understanding of science was revealing God's work, handiwork. She and I shared a common wonder at science. Where we disagreed or differed was in the attributions. She and I, along with Sharon and her husband, have been able to have very deep personal conversations about almost everything because we shared common values, we shared common experiences, we had different attributions, and we know it, and we don't try to convert each other, and we're able to have then these very meaningful conversations. This is not easy. Not everybody is my sister. And it's very difficult, but this points to what's possible and what we should think about and strive for, not only, and I understand there's many people for which this is impossible, but I think it's also important for us as an institution or organization to reach out to other religious organizations. The abolitionist movement was a movement that was fronted by religious leaders. The civil rights movement, again, fronted by religious leaders. Catholic Charities down the street, I greatly admire what they do for those who have less in our community. We share common values, we share common experiences. We could be important and close allies in many, many things. So I'm going to end with, for me, one of my favorite quotes by Goethe, that in a single sentence best describes for me the expression of the humanist experience of the sacred.
No, it's just a warm.
Okay. Okay, to repeat. This is a single sentence that best expresses for me the human experience of the sacred. The highest religious act is the shudder of awe before the visible universe. Thank you, and I welcome your questions.
So let's say you take this view of the mundane and the world we live in, and then look at what's awe-inspiring and what is outside of our understanding, and you adopt that whole viewpoint that you presented so eloquently, and then you ask yourself, how do I act in the world? What life should I live with the knowledge that I potentially can't create? I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're asking what are the moral implications of this? How should I behave?
Exactly.
So
That's practical.
I'm going to be giving a forum on humanism and the origins of ethics
So I have to wait.
So you have to. That's right. And you might be just as disappointed. Yes, Jim.
So I came to the realization a long time ago, what caused me to break away was that I realized through an experience that you can't really know, if there's multiple religions out there, there's, Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, how do you know which one is correct? And the answer to that is there's no way to know. To which one, and so a Christian will go to the Bible, their belief in Jesus and that. A Muslim will go to the Quran and their understanding of what Muhammad said. But there's no way to decide with any degree of certainty which of these is really right. So we don't know. So that's one comment. The second comment is I subscribe to Scientific American, and I think we want to have a very mechanical understanding of the universe and the way things work. Humanists, so we have some idea that it's just all basically atoms and quarks and stuff like that. But there was an article that talked about the origins of space and time. So think about that phrase. I mean, we live in a universe where we're time and we're in space. And the thrust of this article was that we don't understand what these things are, just time and space. And there may be a deeper, and this is a term they use, a deeper underlying reality that gives sort of, to makes the stuff, the world as we know it. And we don't know what that is. So the world as we know it, as we experience it, is a deeply mysterious thing. Even to physicists who are trying to understand it in a mathematical, sort of physical way.
I agree. And it's too bad Claude isn't here.
Yeah.
He's a very eminent physicist. He would say, you bet, that's why I'm a physicist. Really, because what the hell is going on here? Yes, sir.
The highest religious act is the shudder of awe. And there's a group here that I belong to, and Sharon's in there. It's the meditation mindfulness group. And mindfulness is what has given me the ability to occasionally have the shudder of awe.
Yes, I agree. I think meditation is one route to do that. Mary Ann, did you have a question?
Yeah,
Can people hear, or should I?
I wanted to follow up on Jim's comment about right, what is right. The hard part is accepting what is right for another individual. And it seems like we get so caught up on what is right and we make other people wrong. And your example of your sister is a good example that even when we love people, we have to accept that they may have a different belief than us. It's right for them. It may not be right for us. So I think we really get caught up in the right and the wrong.
I agree, and I think the key word that you used is love.
Yes.
Because if that's not there, and by love I mean respect, and care, then forget about it. Forget about it. Or it is hard. Yes,
Brian, I really appreciate what you said, and I think at this point in time that while we don't have a leader, I think it's even more valuable. And I would like to know, especially if you're going to do a follow-up presentation, if there's any way, you said you were recording it, is there any way that we can all access it in some kind of form and have it in the library, say, and share it? I mean, I think we need to hear it again. I want to hear what you said again. I think other people might.
Thank you, Tony. That is the highest compliment. I really appreciate that. I recorded this because I have several friends that can't be here that wanted to. I was not sure how I was going to get that to them. I was probably going to take it over to them and play it because but if there are others that are interested in this, then I will, with your permission, because I don't really feel comfortable going to Louise and saying, this was so important. I think we should post this. So thank you. And I'll do that, and I'll tell her that Tony said I should do.
Yes,
Yes, Andy. Oh, and let me say, we're gonna have to end, but as I said, I think this, no, we have another 8 minutes or whatever. So I want, but I did want to make sure I mentioned, I think this is really an important issue for us, our community. And for those of you who want to continue this discussion and so on, I will be at a table after platform and we can continue this conversation for those of you who've not had enough of me. So, yes, Tony.
So that was a lovely talk, Brian, thank you
Yes.
so
Thank you.
much. My one thing was that early in the talk, you had a whole section about this is a secular, this is a humanist world that we live in.
Right.
And I was looking for a definition of humanist, and if you had one in there, I missed it. And
Okay.
it sounded as if humanist equaled secular. And this matters to me because I have a friend who's constantly challenging me about what is humanism, and so I was looking
Well,
for your formula.
Okay, thank you. Maybe that wasn't clear. Maybe it isn't clear. But when I said humans are the measure of all things, and that I talked about, it is through our experience, perceptions, reason, that we come to understand, and it's this world. So it's this world explanations. So there is no supernatural, no divine. It is this world mystery. So humanism is concerned with this world concerns, not supernatural, not divine. I don't know if that helps anymore. So, Veronica.
Oh, yes, thank you. First, with a couple comments, I just wanted to share, there was a cartoon I saw that said, the great thing about scientists is that if their theory is right, they have a party, and if your theory is wrong, they have a party. Which I really love. And I want to thank you for sharing some of your sacred quotations and texts. Because when I first found this community, I wanted to let me read a book about what humanism is.
Yep.
And I've kind of come to that same conclusion that I have to collect the things that are meaningful to me. So it was really nice to see what's meaningful to you.
Thank you. And I've looked at, the history of humanism is very complicated. And, we have these definitions, 20th and 21st definitions. But man, it was complicated, and there was a book that I started, and it was so much detail I just gave up. I can see if I can round up that book if you're interested, but it is a knotty issue, and what I try to do is reduce it to, for me, the essential. And it's not easy because in some ways it's everything, but it's this world, for me, that to me is the key to this. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for this presentation. I'm somewhat new to this whole thing, that society. And one of the things that I was most attracted to about ethical society is there wasn't a deity that we worship through the ethical society. But a gentleman back here asked about how to practice. What is the way to practice? And you made a comment, and I was wondering if you would repeat that, if you're going to have a follow-up session, or just what you were implying.
Well, my repeat is you'll have to wait. And be dissatisfied at the second presentation, which is humanism and the so my take is it doesn't come from a couple things. There are no absolutes. This is very disturbing. Secondly, because there's no absolutes, there are local moralities, if you will. That does not mean they're all relative. And the place and time where we're living today, if you look, for me, these are democratic values, and if you look at the values that are stated in the Ethical Society, these are Enlightenment, democratic statements about what it means to be human. And they are derived from a certain historical and intellectual tradition that confers those, I'm answering, like, maybe I'm not answering it, but that confers that. And the fact that they're not universal is all the more reason why we need to fight for them. Because they could disappear. And they're critical to us now living here in this culture right now. I don't care what India in the 12th century BC had for their values. I'm sure it was very different. They had a very different cultural, historical context. So I don't know if that helps. I'm not sure I want to go any further with
So
that.
is there a date for part 2? I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's March 21st, I think.
Okay. That's practically
And I could be dead by then, so. Maybe I won't have to do this.
One last comment about the bird experience. I recently, or last summer, I had my experience somewhat when I think a hummingbird did not know that I was a person. It was approaching, because I was sitting still reading, and it came about this close to me, and I turned to see what that was. And at that time, it realized that I was a moving thing, and it stopped. And then it flew backwards. And I was like, oh my God. Oh, okay, it's it again. Oh my gosh.
So, I have a whole thing about birds.
Everything.
Yeah.
Once
Wow.
you scrape off,
Wow.
once you scrape off, and bird watchers are absolutely obsessed with naming birds. And that includes me. And collect how many names they have, right? This is a way of managing this remarkable and disturbing world. And needing to put some kind of lock on it. And underneath it, I mean, yes, I agree with you, birds, there are other things, but birds are like, they're flying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it was wonderful talking to you, because I think it was I'm kind of skeptical about secular or anything else. But I thought it was very excellent, and I'm sacred now, so.
You were sacred and didn't know it. Yeah, but
Okay, more than birds,
Yes.
this planet is extremely rare
Yes.
in the universe,
Yes.
with life process that doesn't exist anywhere else in this vast corner of the universe.
We don't know.
And that should be sacred.
Yes.
The life process should be sacred.
And so Brian's explanation of
And
humanism
morality comes
doesn't,
out of supporting life.
Doesn't, we aren't necessarily all humanists
Yes.
in this room. You don't have to fit in the definition that Brian gave you of humanist to appreciate what he said.
Yeah.
That there's
Yeah.
huge value in that,
That photo.
but the answers are unknown to us.
Yeah.
yes. Kathy, I know we have to go, but.
I just want to thank you for recommending that we take back some of those words that we've been afraid to use. I think it's really, really important. I do consider this to be my religion. I don't have a problem talking about things that are spiritual or awesome if we understand. I mean, that is a human experience, and I don't want that taken away from me
Yes.
just because I don't believe in the supernatural.
Absolutely, I feel a certain sense of almost anger. Which- Okay, we should probably end up, so I'll hang around, but if people want to talk about it afterwards, after time for